What's going on, guys? Joe McCall, Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast and the Joe McCall YouTube channel. How you doing, guys? Excited about this episode, huh? Listen, my favorite topic lately has been land investing. I've been interviewing a lot of people talking about land investing, how they run their business. I've been doing land for about 3-4 years now, and just in the last few weeks, I've really been ramping it up again. My teenage sons, if you've heard me talk about this before, my teenage sons in the last 3 years, doing it very, very part-time, have done over 150 grand in profits, gross profits from these deals. And we're starting to now sell our vacant land on notes with owner financing. And so I put out a post a couple weeks ago saying, hey, I'm looking for some cool people that do land and would like to talk about them. And so we got some people on today that I just met, and you're going to meet them for the first time. I do know they live in Colorado, the beautiful, awesome state of Colorado. And I'm just by coincidence wearing my Colorado hat that I bought a couple weeks ago when I was in Vail. So we're going to introduce you to you guys here soon. A real cool couple that lives like way up in the mountains. Like, I'm really jealous. 10,000 feet. They probably got incredible views out their windows. But we're going to talk about how they do land and how they take some of their profits and reinvest it into bigger properties that produce longer term cash flow. All right. So we'll talk about that in a second. I want to tell you, first of all, a couple of things here. A lot of you are watching this live right now on YouTube and Facebook. So I want to ask you to please tell us where you're from and type any questions in the chat and in the comments. When you can type in chat or, questions and comments, or tell us where you are, just say hi. We can show it on the screen, which is pretty cool. So if you have any questions about what we're doing, type it in, just say hi. We'd love to hear from you and see how you're doing. And, yeah, that's about all I want to say. Is there anything else? You know what? Oh, yeah. One thing real quick. Got to tell you about this. I just found a way yesterday. I think I'm testing it out. Big fan of PropStream, right? I just found out a way where you can pull a list of vacant land that has delinquent taxes in PropStream. And I was showing this to another guy who's a big land investor, and he was blown away. He's like, oh my gosh, I did not know you could do that. So here's the deal. If you go to propstreamjoe.com, sign up for PropStream, you get a 14-day trial, I think, 7 or 14-day trial or something like that. And then shoot me an email. I will send you a video on how to do it. But go to propstreamjoe.com, sign up for PropStream. It's an amazing resource. It's an amazing tool. A lot of controversy lately about it, like they lost MLS access and all that. I don't think it's that important. I didn't think they had good MLS data to begin with, right? I didn't like MLS data on PropStream. But you can get great vacant land lists from them. And now you can also filter in vacant land that has delinquent taxes, which is, if you know anything about land, it's been a hard thing to get in the past. Now it's much easier to do that. All right. So go to propstreamjoe.com. This podcast and this YouTube video is brought to you by propstreamjoe.com. Go check that out. Oh, good. We got some comments. Look at this. Here we got Edmund from Dania, Florida. Thomasina. Hi, how you doing? And here we go. The Silent Seawolf Mac from South Colorado. That's cool. And I can't pronounce Abdullah. Hey man, how you doing? From Abdul, Texas. Really? That's cool. All right. Cool. Should we bring on Mike and Ligia? Oh, I messed it up. I knew it. Deaton. How are you guys?
Great, man.
Ligia. How do you say it again?
Just let it roll off the tongue.
Ligia. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
No
happens all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Mike and Ligia. How are you guys?
Man, we're doing great. We're, like you mentioned, we're up here in the mountains of Colorado. We have funded our lifestyle with land investing. So It's a topic near and dear to our heart. We love it. It's allowed us to kind of reinvent our lives here for the last 5 years or so. So
have you been in Colorado 5 years?
Almost 5 years. Yeah. So 2016, we both got ejected from the corporate world for various reasons. Okay. And we took that opportunity to just chart a new course, and land investing was fundamental to that. So we kind of got introduced to it, and we thought it was crazy. And we stuck with it over the last 5 years, and it's afforded us just a tremendous lifestyle. So couldn't ask for better.
All right. So that was what, 6 years ago now, right?
Yeah, coming up on 6 years.
Yes.
It was summer of
Years.
2016, so we're coming up
Super
there.
cool. That's about when I got interested in it, but I've never taken it full time serious. Always been part time, dabbling into it. But I'm getting ready personally for myself to hire now somebody full time to do my acquisitions,
Nice.
and excited about it. You know, I've had VAs that have helped me over the years do it, but it's one thing to have a VA kind of help with the data admin stuff, but to get someone full time dedicated, US based, I'm taking that big leap. I'm excited about it.
It is. Yeah, that's something to be
Yes.
excited for. That's a great milestone.
Cool. Okay, guys, talk about how'd you find out about land?
Well, so podcasting, really. I kind of in those early days of 2016, we revisited Robert Kiyosaki, and we were looking at what type of cash flowing businesses could we get into more as a side hustle. And in fact, I was listening to a podcast called The Side Hustle Nation, or The Side Hustle Show, and it's all about side hustles. And I heard 2 separate podcasts about guys that were doing land investing and, doing well at it.
Yeah.
And it had they mentioned, I believe they both mentioned that they had gone through the Land Geek, Mark Podolsky. And so I signed up for he had a toolkit that you could buy at the time, just kind of an intro to land investing. And at the time I was a full-time employee. Ligia was full-time. We did nothing with that, right? It just went on the desk and started collecting dust. And then, when we found ourselves out of work, and looking for an alternative, it was right there. And so we just decided to go all in and give it a set amount of time and see if we could make it work.
What were you doing before, if you don't mind me
full-time?
asking?
So my career has really been in big tech. Right out of high school, right out of college, I started working with Motorola in electronics manufacturing. I transitioned into Nokia when Nokia was like king of the mobile phone world.
Yeah, I remember.
And then that's actually how Ligia and I met. I took a job overseas to start a factory in Romania, which is where Ligia is from, and
Cool.
she was also working for Nokia in a different division there. And
Wow.
yeah, we met and fell in love and moved back. And then Microsoft bought the handset division of Nokia, so I was in Microsoft for about 5 years running supply chain, and it was just a grind. It was travel almost every week. It was 80-hour weeks. You're always on call. What have you done for me lately, kind of a thing. And so when an opportunity came to leave with even, a little bit of a package, I jumped on it. And then I was in that moment thinking about going back into the corporate world, I had opportunities with Amazon, with Apple, with Tesla, and my stomach just, my heart wasn't in it. My stomach was, in knots.
I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so we jumped into land, and that's kind of my backstory. I don't know you.
After I moved here to US, I started working for a healthcare company in recruiting department. And I think 6 months before Mike got the opportunity to get out, the office closed in Plano, Texas, and they moved it to Arkansas. So I also found myself without a job. And I think we both revisited a little bit our why and what we wanted to do, and decided that we will not go back to corporate America for a while and just try something else.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I've met so many people who kind of like land investing, who do it, come from a technical engineering background. Have you found that to be true yourself as well? Because something about land investing is definitely more systematic, more technical. You can rely on software to help you do things. You know what I'm saying? Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I have encountered a lot of people from IT, software backgrounds, different things. It is, I think for it to run well, like almost any business, if you have a good laid out process and rely on some good tools to help leverage, then it's so much easier to scale up.
Okay, nice. So I can imagine both of you doing well in business. you had a pretty good corporate salary that you needed to replace. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You don't have to tell us how much. But was that hanging in the back of your head? Like, oh my, how are we going to replace our income and our
Absolutely.
standard of
Yeah.
living doing real estate? And what was going on then?
Yeah. So like Ligia mentioned, we both started looking for jobs, and just that process is grueling. And the thought of either having to relocate somewhere or start a new company culture, or just the unknown of jumping into a different company and the associated work that goes along with it was just, it wasn't sitting well. And so
Yeah.
we took that moment to really, like Lygia said, think about our why and what do we want out of life, and what do we really need. Like, we had a nice home in Plano with a pool and 2 cars and all that stuff, and we sold it. Like, we just said, let's sell. And we had some money in the bank, retirement accounts. And we moved to Colorado, which wasn't a cheap move, but we downsized. I mean, we rented for a few years until we could see if we could get our feet underneath us enough to make it go. So, part of that was really just reassessing, what do we need out of life? I have 2 daughters from a previous marriage that are adults now, and they were entering college at the time. And so, I had a nest egg set aside to make sure that they could do what they wanted to do. And that, that partnership between us and the realization that we could survive on a lot less and be happier, by the way. And the fact that, we were free to fail. We just kind of gave ourselves permission to go in, and what's the worst that could happen? It didn't work, and we have to get jobs. I mean, we were going to get jobs anyway. So, it really wasn't the end of the world. And it had the allure of, a great lifestyle. And so we actually like each other, pretty much.
That's good. So, most of the time.
So we work well together. We have a good way of working. So doing business with each other as partners, that worked out as well, nicely. Nice. So yeah, I mean, it was just, but we also kind of gave ourselves a certain amount of time. We said, let's give this a year and see, if it worked. We got mentors and coaches, and, listened to resources like you're doing here, people that are giving tips and insights. And, it's land investing is amazing because your cost to enter is pretty low, right? I mean, you're buying properties that aren't necessarily, okay, maybe there's a few $1,000s. We've bought properties that are tens of thousands of dollars, but those are exceptions. And so, the risk is pretty low, and you can enter the market. I mean, you can buy properties for hundreds of dollars. We've had properties given to us for free. So, there's a lot of opportunity in land. But it does take, well, I'm not going to say that. It took us money to make the money because we were using our own money. Now, there are other ways to do it, right? You can arbitrage, you can get loans. I mean, if you take a loan out for single digits, you're making double or triple digits on land. Yeah. So, I mean, the spread there is good. There are other ways to do it. We chose to use our own capital and go into it. And so it wasn't, it took money for us to make money, and we had that runway, thankfully, to be able to do that. But there's other ways to do it. Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So what kind of strategy did you try to cling to, or did you follow? Was it wholesaling, just flipping for fast cash, or were you trying to sell on notes to collect the cash flow?
We started out, we didn't really have, so our strategy was, probably 90% notes, and whatever cash sales came in. We weren't marketing as cash sales. We were marketing as either in the early days.
Yeah.
And we put together a business plan, and we said, we need to make $10,000 a month, whatever. Right. And so to do that, we kind of backwards engineered, what does that take? How many pieces of land would that be? How many mailers do we need to send out in order to get those properties?
Yeah.
And, when we were going through some coaching, there was a rough math in that, the market is going to really determine largely if somebody wants to pay cash or if they want to go on a note. And so we just used roughly that, 90-10 split, that we were probably going to get a few cash sales to fund those things. And so that was our starting out strategy. And we largely kind of follow the same path. We have considered in the last year starting a separate wholesaling business where we're maybe buying and wholesaling just to get cash infusions. But we haven't really enacted on that yet. We're still kind of just end to end running the process. We rerun the full supply chain, if you will, right? So we're approaching owners, buying the properties, and then marketing and selling them. And and we're managing our own notes if it's a note, and if somebody wants to pay cash, great. So
now, how long did it take you approximately to reach a point where you were replacing your corporate income?
Well, I would say only in recent years have we really replaced what we were making. Like I mentioned, we downsized and we needed less to live. I mean, we needed less to live. I mean, our corporate salary, we weren't spending everything. We weren't paycheck to paycheck. So there was, money going into savings and investments and things like that. But within that first year, I would say our target was to get to black and not be taking out of savings. And so, that was our first hurdle. And then it was, okay, now let's really ratchet this up and reinvest into the business in just like you're doing, right? You hire some VAs or a support person or invest in better tools and things like that. And that's when you really start to see the lift, is when you can start to put money back into your business in that way.
All right. So talk about the first year that you did this. How many deals were you averaging a month? And then were you able to get into the black within that first year?
Yeah, by the end of the first year, for sure, we got into the black. Our process, we struggled. We started and we were living in Plano when we started. And so we thought, okay, well, let's invest close to home. And so we started mailing in counties around northeastern Texas. And, we had some misses. We got into some markets where there were HOAs and or LOAs, and they were, we got into one and we started getting a lot of response rate. So we were super excited, but then, come to find out they have back taxes and they have back LOAs. And so, by the time you bailed people out of that, you were kind of upside down. And so
you're talking about homeowners association dues.
Yeah. Places that had, we advertised, we would buy your property, pay some taxes within reason, but these people had just mountains of stuff. And so, we found we tried some counties and we had some bad luck. And then we went into West Texas. And then, it took us a while to find a market that really clicked. And then, that was about 6 months, I would say. We ended up buying our first property quickly. We found, some properties and we invested. But then, for us to make that first sale, it was a grind. I think back in those days, Craigslist was kind of the be all end all of marketing, and we were not having any luck. And, but we finally got that first sale. And, after that, just things really started clicking along. And I don't know what that is, but, for us, it came down to really being in the right county where we had there was enough turnover that you could buy and sell properties fluidly.
So instead of just trying to pick counties around where you lived, you started looking to see, well, where was the demand? Where were people buying property?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We started doing a little more research about, where are properties being marketed? Where do they seem to be moving? And, once that formula clicked, then, the business started clicking. And
now here's the thing too, because I've always struggled with HOA properties. I've sold them all, made money with them. Properties that are in an HOA, right? But it's always been a struggle. I've heard some investors say if it's an HOA, they just ignore it. But then where do you guys stand on that?
I don't mind them, honestly.
Okay.
I don't want to over leverage, right? Because you can really bleed out money if you're not selling them quickly. We buy properties in counties or subdivisions where there are homeowners associations. I don't have an issue with it. There's definitely a polarity in the market, right? There are people that will not touch, and I'm talking in terms of buyers, right? There are buyers that they don't want anything to do with an HOA. And then there's buyers that love them. They love, especially we do a lot of our land business here in Colorado. And so in some of these areas, it's nice if somebody's actually going to plow your roads or maintain,
Sure.
trash pickup ever so often, or do things like that. And so there's a buying pool out there, but yeah, you definitely don't want to get burdened with too many, so that you're just, spending a lot of money in HOAs.
And if I may add, I think
Yeah.
in the beginning, we were reluctant to buy in an HOA. Now, being in this business for 4 years, coming up to 5, we're more relaxed, and we would be confident to purchase properties in the HOA.
Yeah.
Because we are more experienced, and we talk to people, and we know there's a buyer out there for sure for those properties.
But it can eat into your profit margin, if you have to sit on something for too long. But
okay. Just so people who don't know, when we're talking about buying vacant land, we're talking about buying vacant land for 25, 30 cents on the dollar and selling it. If we're selling it for cash, I usually try to sell it at 60, 75 cents on the dollar, sometimes more in the last year or two with this crazy market. But when we're selling it on owner financing, we typically we push the limits of what the property's worth. If it's worth 50 grand, I'll try to sell it for 50 grand on owner financing. So it's a great model. I love it because there's a lot less competition than houses, and I get a much cheaper cost per lead when it comes to the market with vacant land. So let me ask you guys, what are some of your favorite ways to find motivated sellers of vacant land?
Well, the easiest and most direct way is we just kind of mail into the tax base of a county. I heard you talking a little bit about delinquent lists and things like that. We have dabbled in that as well. We largely will just mail through a county or a subdivision within a county. But, once you've done that, then, it really helps to know that market a little more deeply. And so neighbors are great sources, neighbor letters, sending out to surrounding properties. You can usually start a conversation with people. We have a lot of referrals, actually, once you get into it, then both on the buying and selling side. We have, since we started, really put a lot of stock in running our business very professionally. And so we get that feedback from a lot of people that if somebody responds to your offer, I can't tell you how many times we have people say, I've requested to sell my property to so many other people and they just don't respond, or, I haven't heard anything. And same on the sales side. When we have clients reach out to us, we try to be very, we try to respond very promptly, professionally. We work with people, if they have a tricky land situation, they've got multiple people on a deed, or somebody passed away and somebody doesn't know how to figure out with the county to get things, we'll try to provide that level of service as some value add that we can do to get things. So, a lot of times we find great motivated sellers in that way. They're looking for a way to get some money out of their property, but they don't know how to do something. And, short of providing legal advice or something, we'll reach out and do their legwork. We'll call the county. We'll figure out what needs to be done, within limits, of course, but it certainly, it helps pull those motivated sellers.
Right. And another way is to reach out to owners that have multiple properties in a county. Sometimes we find that they are very motivated to sell as well.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot of direct mail. Is that your main source for leads?
Yeah, that's our consistent go-to.
And what kind of letters or postcards do you like to send?
We send a full page letter. We introduce ourselves a little bit. We make an offer in that letter, and then we provide them a few ways to get back in touch with us, and just kind of that way. So we like doing an actual offer and sending it out directly to people.
And
have you ever tested I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we have a picture of us on the offer letter. So
Nice.
I think that we had a couple of feedbacks from potential sellers. They said, it just comes across more personal. And we found that works better.
Nice. I've been thinking about testing range offers lately. Is that something you've ever tried to do? Range. So I might say, instead of buying your property for this, I'll put a range in there. Have you ever tried that?
We haven't done that, but that's an interesting concept. We usually put an offer in, and then, once we do a little due diligence, we'll come back and either negotiate, down or whatever based off of that. But yeah, that's an interesting, it's an interesting idea.
All right. So you're doing a lot of direct mail. About how much mail do you send a month?
Oh gosh, it varies from, we have kind of been up and down. We about 18 months ago, we started another business focused in on multifamily investing. And so like our attention span goes back and forth. And this is where we don't have robust enough systems in place to have the business run consistently without us. But, anywhere from a few hundred to 1,000, we'll send out. If we start in a new county, a lot of times we try to hit it hard and go in, but not so hard that, like, you want that feedback a lot of times, right? You send out some offers, and if you hear crickets from the marketplace, you want to be able to adjust. And so I don't necessarily want to go out and send all 10,000 letters and then have found out that I made a mistake and spent, $5,000 in mailing costs or whatever. So
are there certain areas? Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We try to keep it as 400, 500 mailers a month.
Okay. That's not much at all. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Are there certain areas of the country that you like to focus on?
Well, yes, there are. I mean, so like I said, we kind of started in the Texas markets, a lot of those counties. We found a lot of the land rich counties, like meaning there's a lot of lands. Some of them were very, archaic in their processes, right? They don't have electronic systems. You had to mail in a deed. It just was really kind of made it tough to work in those markets. Yeah. We love the mountains of Colorado. And so we love like pine trees, forested areas. I mean, that's what we gravitate towards. It's very easy for us to sell those properties because we're passionate about them. It's hard to sell West Texas dirt for us. It's, but there's a market, right? There's some people that love it. There's very, very little regulations. You can kind of do some things. So there's a market there, but mostly in the Southwest is where we focused: Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, a lot in Colorado. But we've thought about the Southeast. We haven't really explored it too much, but
I've heard a lot of people. I've heard of people complaining about Colorado because it's so competitive. Is that what you see?
It has gotten very competitive. Yes. Yeah. We've noticed our response rates go down, and the prices go up. So it's definitely getting competitive.
I will say this though. I'll take the competition for land in Colorado any day compared that to the competition for houses.
Yeah. Colorado. Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, what people are complaining about is getting maybe a 2% response rate in Colorado instead of 0.2% response rate.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yes.
So yeah, that's incredible. All right. So do you guys, how many vacant lots do you guys own right now that you have producing income for you?
Oh gosh. We have close to 70, I think, 120 that are under notes right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 120.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. And then approximately, what are you guys making on monthly revenue on those notes? You can, if you want to be vague, go ahead. I'm always nervous about asking.
No, I mean, our average note is $200-$250 around there. So, I mean, we have a good 25K coming in from notes properties, outside of any cash sales, and things like that. So it's,
that is amazing.
Yeah.
That is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been overnight. We've just been very consistent and steady in our progress, and we're 5 years into this, and so as a result, something that's very front and center on our radar, we are coming up to a lot of properties that will be going through their cycle, right? So a lot of our contracts are going to end because most of ours are on like a 5-year term. It's kind of how
Okay.
we've priced out a lot of our stuff. So we have an urgency to get the replacement cycle going and kind of
Yeah.
get back in accelerating some
Well, I
stuff.
know one way you can do that. Send more than 500 postcards or letters a month,
Well, that's yep.
right?
It
Maybe
can be,
send 500 a week.
Yeah, for sure. And we have done that. We started out the year very heavy in our mailing, and we'll continue that till we have some cash in the bank and we're ready to buy some properties. So,
All right, that's one thing I want to ask you about. That is getting the cash to buy these deals and how you kind of navigated that. But first, I wanted to ask you about your team. Do you have virtual assistants or anybody helping you, or is it just you two?
it's mostly us. We definitely have we rely on a team to help, but it fluctuates a lot, and this has been tricky, and I think we've done it several different ways. And so, VAs are nice because you can pay transactional type pricing, but they're not, in our experience, one, it's hard to find a really good VA, but then it's hard to keep a really good VA. And so the replacement cycle is tough. We don't, finding, I love the fact that your son is getting involved in the business. My daughters both, we have tried, but they're just not, they're not really in it. So yeah, we go up and down. We've also, I know there's a few places or a few times in our career where there's been people that have a specialty VA service where they have land geared VAs. That's okay as well. That works. But yeah, largely we love what we do. And we have a little bit of time. And so, when we can, we will do that. I like to craft the offer letter. I like to do research in counties and understand, what's flowing and what's not. There's more mundane aspects of the business that are kind of easy to farm out, but there's also automation. There's a lot of products out there that will help you run your business so that you don't necessarily need a person to do certain things. But yeah, that's, at the moment, we have just a couple of transactional people that we work when we accelerate or need to do things. But when it comes to buying and selling, we usually reach out directly to people, and I like to talk to them. And and
all right, let me ask you guys about the cash to close your deals, because if somebody is trying to build a portfolio of notes, obviously it takes cash to buy these deals, and some people just don't have it. But what did you guys do to start buying? Were you just taking money from savings? Were you borrowing money from private lenders, or what were you guys doing?
Yeah, we started with our own. So we had some money, and we created a business. We created our LLC, and we funded it with a nest egg of money up front. And we just said, this is going to be our money to start the business. And then, back then, especially, even now, we still try to price out our buying and selling such that we recoup our investment in less than a year.
Yeah.
Right. So a combination of down payments and monthly payments, we ideally in 9 or 10 months, we'll get our investment back. And so, once you start building on that, then we started putting in a certain percentage of our profits back into the business to go specifically for land acquisition.
Okay.
So, right. We put the overhead in this business is really low, or it can be, so it's not like you're really spending a whole lot. A lot of the money that comes in is profit. So, you're able to just fund that back in.
Nice.
But yeah, for us, it was really about that. We have recently leveraged debt to purchase properties. Right. So, the terms, right, you can get a 3% interest loan, or somewhere around there in a lot of cases. And so if you're making 20 to 1,000% return on your investment, then you can cover the cost of a pretty hefty loan.
So you're getting bank financing, is that right?
We have, we've gotten some bank financing here recently.
So is that more of a commercial business type of a loan then?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not borrowing money on a particular piece of land?
No, we haven't used any collateral like that. It's just but now that we've been in business for 5 years or so, we can get funds against our business and our history. So that's lately what we've done. It's we also, we have a policy. I hate. I understand the concept of leverage, and I embrace the concept of leverage, but I just do not want to get over leveraged. So, there's a lot of people that I know and have heard of that have been wiped out by just hard times coming. So,
totally know what you're talking about. I was there myself in 2008.
Oh, I hear it all the time.
Oh yeah. I never heard anybody say I went into foreclosure or bankruptcy who was debt free when the market crashed. Right. It just doesn't. You don't go into foreclosure and bankruptcy and financial ruin when you have very little debt.
It's true. I mean, and I totally believe that there's a balance there, and it's somewhat individual, but there is. I mean, leverage is a great way to do exactly that, to leverage this debt to scale your business. But yeah, it's and we're entering I think a peak in the real estate market, right? So we're overdue for the normal cycle, and there's a lot of money being injected in, be it in the commercial or the residential space, and so it's a time to be, I wouldn't say scared, but it's definitely time to be cautious. And I haven't ever heard of anybody getting going out of business in the land business, but certainly in the residential side of things, a lot of people got hurt.
Yeah. Okay. So have you ever used somebody to help fund your deals for you? There's a lot of different guys or companies out there that for vacant land investors specifically who will lend money or partner on deals with students. Have you ever tried doing that?
We haven't personally done it. I know some people that enter into partnerships in that way. I would be, I have, I guess, some curiosity about how that works, both from a legal perspective as well as from like a securities exchange. I think you would have to almost join into a JV or some kind of a partnership. Yeah. I know people that do it. It's a great way. I mean, there's a lot of profits to be made in this business, and you can certainly divide them up. And still make a really good money, right? So you got somebody willing to put in sweat equity and somebody willing to put in equity, then it's a great match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Can we talk about some of the tools you guys use? And then I want to talk about how you reinvest some of this money into multifamilies and why you're doing that.
Sure.
So what are some of your favorite tools?
So we use Podio a lot. Really, it's very customizable and interfaces with a lot of other, whether you like to use Microsoft Suite or Google or whatever. I mean, you can plug into all those. You can customize a lot of things. So we do a lot of our, let's say, our offer letters, as well as our CRM, or customer relationship management type, where we keep contacts and responses and different things. We're able to track our metrics. And so I would say Podio is kind of our engine that we use for that. We largely have used a system called GeekPay for our note management, but we also use we try to diversify a little bit. I don't like to have all my notes in one basket, so to speak. And so we spread that out a little bit just in case something happens. I've heard of people like Stripe or other, they sometimes will shut people down just because they don't like the owner financing model of real estate. So those are probably two. I don't know. Can you think of? Click to mail. Yeah, that's we mail through Click to Mail currently. We have for a long time.
Interesting.
I've thought about, I know there are other competitors out there. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. Some things are just from a time and a cost to transition. Haven't really explored that too much, but that's definitely our mailer source.
And also Pipedrive, that helps us keep organized. I know there's Follow Up Boss. We haven't tried Follow Up Boss, but it works. Pipedrive just works for us very well.
So what do you do in your business with Pipedrive?
Well, it's also some sales management. Just you can set up a workflow for when somebody reaches out initially. If a lot of times if we don't have a piece of property available for them right then we can collect information about what are you looking for, what's your price point, when would you buy, those kind of things. And so you can record. On the sales side, we use a lot of customer relationship management in that.
I'm surprised you don't use Podio for that. Why? Because this is something I've wrestled with too. I love Podio.
Yeah.
I know a little bit about Pipedrive, but you can do 99% of it in Pipedrive in Podio.
It's just, yes, you can. It's just a question of setting it up and doing it. And we just haven't built out that side of our workflow in Podio. So Pipedrive is kind of I would say it's a little more user friendly. Yeah. They do a lot of the plug and play and all of that, versus Podio's a bit more software focused, where you kind of have to set things up. But just we started that way, and we kind of had the front end side of our business already in Podio, and then we just haven't pulled the sales side in. And
that makes sense. If you had to pick between one or the other and only use one, would you use Pipedrive or Podio?
Well, I probably use Podio just because I think it's a lot more flexible, right? Pipedrive, I mean, you have to pay for certain levels of service and configurations and customizations. And I would say the more complicated side of our business is already in Podio. So it would be a harder thing to reconfigure.
What are you guys using for phones? Getting phone calls, making phone calls?
We have we have a Google number that we use that, you can set up a voicemail. It rings through to your mobile phone. They'll transcribe your messages. So, we get an email when somebody calls in, and you can decide if it's a hate mail or if it's somebody serious. So we use a lot of that. I try not to use my cell phone. We don't have a business cell phone. I mean, that would be one way to go, to be set up a separate number, but a lot of our clients have our mobile numbers. So if somebody's bought a property from us or done something, then for sure we will connect via cell phones. But just having a real easy Google number, and we've had it since we started. Okay.
I love it. I love how you've been slowly and steadily building your portfolio, and it's not a quick sprint either, is it? It's a long run.
It's not. It can be. I know people who have very quickly made a lot of money, right? They've focused on one area, and wholesalers, right? They find a way, or find a person that has a crap ton of land, and then they're able to quickly turn it for cash. But I mean, I think that most of the successful people that we know and that we interact with have just been very steady progress, month over month.
Nice. I see here some people are asking about default rates on your vacant land notes, right? Do you track that? How many people, what percentage of your notes default do you have to find a new buyer for?
We do track it. Yeah. And it's low single digits, less than 5%. And we go pretty far to the extreme to try to work with people. So if people get 2-3 months behind, we'll try to restructure their payment. I don't know. It's hard for me to pull a piece of property away from somebody, especially the deeper they get into their note payments.
Yeah.
So, we try to keep ours pretty low, but there are those instances where people just say, I can't do it. And we will also, one of the things we try to do is, if let's say they've paid $4,000 in on a property and they just have to walk away, we'll hold that $4,000 for a year. And if they're able to come back in and reinvest in something, we'll kind of promise to throw that back in. We've never had anybody take us up on that, but
that's a good idea.
It's just something, because it's hard I know people work hard for their money and their things, but we have a low default rate, and we don't necessarily look at it as bad. It's bad for them. It's good for us. Right. So we've had properties that the buyer has paid our portion of the property. Right. So they've paid the principal that we invested into the property, and then we resell it. So it's pure profit at that point. So
nice.
People look at it as a bad thing, and it is a hassle, but it's just it's more, extra revenue coming in on the property. It's just sad to see somebody lose out on something, and people go through hard times.
All right, let's talk about multifamilies. What got you interested in multifamilies?
Making too much money in land got us into multifamily. So, with increased revenue comes increased taxes, and land does not depreciate. So we started looking for depreciable assets, and we decided on multifamily. So we were interested really in storage or multifamily, and we couldn't decide, and so we just picked one, and we went into multifamily. And so we've been passively investing some of our money, and we've also been taking active roles, which is more finding the deals, and you get some sweat equity basically as a way to do that. And so with properties like multifamily or self-storage or tangible buildings, the government allows you to take losses on what depreciates down from, if you purchase something for $10 million, then you can depreciate it over time. And you can take that against your income. It varies, right? If you have a W-2 income, it's a little bit less that you can take, versus we're real estate professionals, and currently it's unlimited that you can take off against income. So we purely got into it for that, although now it's a really nice way to diversify our income stream, and kind of not rely solely on land. But so
that's good.
We're kind of in a syndication model where essentially it's a pooling of investors. So if you're buying a property for $10 million purchase price, just like a house, you have to put 20% down or whatever. So, you need to come up with $2 million of cash. And so you can pool across 10 or 15 different investors, and everybody takes a percentage in there. So,
yeah. Have you found that's a whole nother business, right? Have you found that it's getting harder to focus on one or the other or both?
No, I mean, we have a pretty good balance between us. Ligia has really been focused on the land business, since we've joined in multifamily, and I've been ramping that up. Okay. And so we've been able to keep both, pretty active. We're getting to a point where, in fact, just, this past month, we've been talking about exactly which tasks we would like to farm out to somebody, whether that's a VA or a part-time person or a full-time person, but we'll start to expand and build out a team. And there are some similarities across. I mean, it's real estate, and so there are a lot of similarities. But yeah, I mean, it's a different animal, and a lot of complexities because of the cost, and it's a commercial product, and there's securities exchange regulations that have to be met, and like you've mentioned about housing, it's a super competitive market. I mean, there's just a lot of people out there doing the same thing.
I know Jack Bosch, good friend of mine, he's been doing that a lot, still doing land, but now also getting into multifamilies, making a lot of money, but it's also a lot of work. And have you found, is it, you've done a few deals now. Do you feel like it's better to be the active investor looking for the deals, or to be the passive investor that's just lending money for the deals?
Generally, I would say it's great to be a passive investor and just put the money in. It's a lot of work. I mean, it really is. Like I said, we kind of love real estate in this business, and it's our full-time job. So we have the time, but it is a lot of work, and a lot of responsibility, quite frankly. Just, you're dealing with millions of dollars of asset, and so, it really depends on the person. But largely, I would say if you can passively invest and just reap the benefits, do it.
Yeah. All right. I want to ask you guys a couple more questions, and then we have people that have typed in questions here, and I'd like to throw them at you.
Yeah, let's do
it. If you were to talk to yourself 5 years ago, when you're just 6 years ago, when you're just getting started, what would you tell yourself back then?
Oh, gosh. I would say for me, it would be patience. I mean, I think at that moment we were in a stressful time, and it was hard to not see results right away. But they come. in the end. So patience for me is kind of a big one.
Did you have any fears or doubts that this wouldn't happen? Would you have told yourself, hey, stop worrying and just start making more offers?
We did. I mean, and we still do, honestly. I mean, it's part of being an entrepreneur, or even just a human. Honestly, fears come with it. One way we immersed ourselves in land culture. So we signed up for groups. We found mentors, and we got coaching. And so we had, people to help walk us through some of those fears. But yeah, I mean, that definitely is a strong message for everybody. I think just to have some trust in the process and stay the course, and kind of work through those things. I mean, I think,
somebody kind of relates to the similar question to somebody now who's listening to this and is like, man, I kind of interested in land. This might be something I want to do. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I would say first step, educate, find resources, whether it's a show like this. We listened to a ton of podcasts. We signed up for, we invested in education. We invested in a toolkit. We invested in coaching.
Yeah.
We saw this as our full-time business. And so we said, as such, we should invest in getting that education. So that's certainly I would say the first step. But then, I don't want to, there's a magic in taking action as well, right? So you can't just educate yourself. You have to couple that with taking action.
Cool. All right. So do you mind if I ask you guys some questions?
Yeah, let's fire away.
Were submitted in advance or submitted here in the Facebook.
Okay.
Okay. This is a question from Aaron. If you had to start over and had no money, would you start with land investing?
Would you start with land investing?
I would say yes, because the cost of entering in land investing model and business, it's low. It can be as much as you want it. And it's really low risk.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely. There are in any real estate model, I would say there are ways to do it without money. And this is where I think if you revisit, like, I don't know if it's Rich Dad, I think it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad that teaches this concept, right? Like, just, you have to Think and Grow Rich. Great book, right? I mean, apply yourself, think and grow rich. You mentioned it earlier, Joe, like, find a partner. There's people out there that want money. Well, if you're making, agree to some split, I'll give you 50-50 on the profits, or I'm putting my sweat equity in, I'll give you 30, I'll take 70, whatever. Right. I mean, there's a way to do it, but land is a great vehicle, I would say, to quickly build wealth from a small or no amount, just because you can flip it and you can make, quick cash. You can do notes and build it out over time. So
yeah,
it's a good way.
Good. All right. Another question here from Jay. Do you use flat fee MLS listings? Do you ever put your properties on the MLS with a flat fee?
I would say no. You're the marketing person. We've used Zillow a lot, and actually had pretty good success with it. But yeah, we haven't done anything with the MLS.
Speaking of Zillow, I was wondering the other day, do you know anybody, or have you ever done this, where you put your vacant lot on Zillow Property Manager? They have like, it used to be cozy.co, I think, .co. And if you have a rental property, a house, you can put it on Zillow Property Manager and you pay them a fee, but then you can collect rent from your tenants. Have you ever thought about using that for your vacant land, or do you know anybody who has?
I don't know anybody. I'm familiar with the system from renting, but yeah, that's an interesting concept in terms of notes. I don't know if they would embrace that or how that would work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know some people do rent to own on their vacant land. So maybe that's a way around it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's essentially our model. We structure our promissory notes in our contracts such that, we don't transfer the deed until the notes are fully paid off. So it's kind of like a rent to own, but.
Cool. And then related to that is a question from Aaron. Do you use a note service to do this, or do you do it yourself? We talked about Geek Pay, GEEK, Geek Pay, right?
Yep.
And then what's the other service that you use? You said you spread it out.
We have used QuickBooks a lot. So we use QuickBooks for our bookkeeping, and they have a feature that you can set up recurring payments. It's a little less customized. GeekPay is for land investors, right? So you can structure note fees, taxes, late payments, and those types of things. So it's a little more friendly, but yeah, I mean, QuickBooks is another way that we try to balance the two when we have clients that we think it works better with. We've also used if you like Bank of America and Chase, they have this payment app called Zelle or whatever. Yeah. It's like a electronic transfer. We've done that with clients before. There's no the good thing there is like you save on your fees and your service charges, right? So we a lot of times we'll try to look for things where we can avoid fees like that.
With Zelle, can you set it where it does it automatically, or do you have to manually do it every month?
The payer has to. They can set it up automatically. I'm not sure that I can set it up to bill somebody, but I think they just set up an automatic payment plan and it's transparent. And then we have a couple clients that send us a paper check.
Nice. So, that's good. All right. So any final things you guys want to talk about or say? Do you guys have a website people can reach you if they want more information about what you guys do? And
yeah, we have our multifamily website is DeatonEquityPartners.com. And
let me write that down. Spell it again. Deaton.
Yep, they can maybe see it behind my head there, but Deaton Equity Partners. So DeatonEquity Equity.
Boom. Is that it?
You got it. And then if you'll, we have a landing page, so /freedom.
Okay.
And we have a couple of resources there, like kind of intro to land investing, intro to multifamily investing. We have our contact information if anybody wants to reach out to us separately. Some things there. So that's a good resource. And then our land investing website is just really selling land. So it's openplainsproperties.com. But there's openplainsproperties.com. But
Open Plains. Is that okay to put that on here?
You can. If somebody wants to buy a piece of land, we'll be happy to sell them.
All right. Openplainsproperties.com. They also have DeatonEquityPartners.com. And you have some free giveaways at DeatonEquityPartners.com/freedom. Is that right?
You got it.
Nice. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys being on the show and just sharing kind of what's working for you. And, it's always a treat to hear from people that are actually in the business, doing the business and having success with it. So I really appreciate you guys, Mike and Ligia, Deaton. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you for having us on the show.
All right, guys. Hey, listen, if you're not watching this on YouTube right now, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, click that little like button, and show some love. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you later. Thanks, guys.
Take care.